When it comes to online marketing, your website is key to getting new sales and being found. But can you say for certain how well your website is working for you? Get your free website report from Inertia Marketing and Design. Your 30-plus page report shows a deep dive study on SEO, links, usability, social, and overall performance. You can even add up to 2 competitor websites and see how they are comparing to you. Best of all, your website report even tells you in great detail what you need to do to fix any problems found. It's a complete guide to getting the most of your website. Save $350 and get your website report for free through FSI's exclusive podcast link, www.inertia.marketing/FSI. The link is in the show notes too. Inertia Marketing and Design. Brands in motion, stay in motion. Hi, I'm Tony Russo, and this is Funeral Service Insider from Kates-Boylston. Each episode features conversations about emerging trends and news that affect the death care industry. We talk to people who understand the delicate balance of change in a profession and vocation steeped in tradition. This week, I'm speaking with Mike Dixon, a funeral director who is the executive director and founder of Funeral Professionals Peer Support. It's a nonprofit aimed at providing funeral directors a safe space to talk about their personal and professional challenges. He was an absolute pleasure to speak with. He always is, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of the episode. This week, again, I want to remind you that if you listen to the halfway point, there will be a promo code to save on registration for our upcoming funeral service business plan. Please use the plan. Please come to the thing. It's in Virginia Beach, Virginia, October 24th and 25th. I've been running a series on Funeral Service Insider, the newsletter, highlighting some of the things that people will be talking about as kind of teasers. So if you're a subscriber to that, you've been getting those articles. But no matter what, you can get them at Kates-Boylston.com. There will be a link in the show notes to Funeral Service Insider, and I will tell you why if you stick around for the post-mortem after the closing credits. But for now, let's get started talking to Mike. What really kind of captivated me about this peer-to-peer program was I was, having been new to the industry, completely ignorant of the kind of exhaustion that funeral directors can undergo, the emotional exhaustion. And I was fortunate enough to hear you guys speak at Cana 2 years ago. And ever since then, I've tried to kind of keep up and boost your events where I can. But for anyone that isn't familiar with you guys and what you do, can you kind of give me a quick background of the program and how it has expanded since COVID?
It's normally a very long, drawn-out story, but I'm going to give you the Coles notes of how we started. It basically kind of started with me when I was diagnosed with PTSD and severe depression, and after numerous failed suicide attempts, obviously failed, I reached out for help. I just became very open with my story and where I was, and I started to hear from people that I knew in this industry for a long time, and they were basically kind of telling me the same story that I've always kept hidden. And I think as a public, whether we're funeral service professionals or whatever, it's a story that we keep hidden. So we started our very first peer support group in Ottawa, Canada. And a couple of months later, we started to get some press, local press, which turned into national press. And other funeral homes started to hear what we were doing in Ottawa and said, hey, this is something that we want to do or we want to be part of. And then, unfortunately, when COVID hit, we had to kind of change our peer support meetings and going from kind of an in-house peer support meeting to a virtual peer support meeting, and that opened us up to the United States. And we started to hear from funeral directors through the United States, into Europe, into Australia, and actually into Kenya. We started to hear about those folks kind of going through the same thing we were going through in Canada. And so that's kind of how we've kind of grown in a very short period of time. We've only been in existence for 7 years. Yeah, it's just grown unbelievably.
And the peer-to-peer network, would it be right to say it has kind of like two levels, because you do have like occasionally have like a speaker that everyone can dial in for, but you also have these individual localized regional meetings, which can be different from that.
Yes, I mean, kind of right now we're doing 4 peer support meetings a month. So we do one that's based out of Nairobi, Kenya, one that's based out of the United States, one that's based out of Canada. And during the school year, something we started last year and we're very excited about, we've started to have international, you would call it, peer support meetings for students. One thing that we haven't done quite yet, but we're in the process of doing, because those individual regional meetings are still so very, very important to what we do as an organization. And, you kind of need that local stuff, local groups getting together, people in the industry that know each other or work in the same community. We're just very slowly starting to redo that again, where we kind of have a location and people can go to those meetings, but of course, still having the online presence, which is also very important.
Well, and it is good to see someone face to face if you feel like you need to see someone face to face. I guess that's one of the upside of going back to having some in person, is that that connection. You're making a connection that you might really need to make, being in the same room with someone.
Yeah, I always use this example. I used to work for kind of a large funeral home in Ottawa, and there was this other large funeral home, which I guess you would call us competitors. And we never associated with them, right? You were never, you saw each other at hospitals and that sort of thing,
Right.
but you never really associated with them because the mindset was they were evil, right? So but one thing we found with in-house peer support meetings, and I heard often this had happened, was that person A who works at A and B funeral home expressed something that she was going through, and person B who works at another funeral home in the city kind of said, hey, you know what, I kind of went through the same thing. Them actually getting together at a later date for coffee somewhere, they wouldn't normally associate with each other, except for, the fact that they connected on this level that one person was dealing with. We tend to rely on our governments for way too much. You often hear a political candidate talking about, our party's going to spend millions and billions on mental health care. And then when they're in power, there is no millions or billions for mental health care. And the reason for that is because there is no more extra healthcare money. We are tapped out. So it's now the time that this profession and other professions who have done it in the past start to look after people in their industry, because in funeral service, we're losing way too many people from burnout, from suicide, from addiction. And we need to, as a profession and as businesses, start to look after each other. So people are in this industry, in this profession, for a long period of time, and they know that they're cared for.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'd like you to talk about a little bit, only because you were very open with your own story, and this is one of the things that kind of captivated me. It's like, you go from just having a drink to take the edge off, to having a drink to help you sleep, to having a drink to sleep at all.
Yeah.
And you don't even notice that it's really happening. And as a writer, I, sometimes I'll have a drink to help me sleep. And every time every time I feel like I have to have a drink to help me stay asleep, I think of you. I'm like, that's the road that you don't know you're going down until you're already on it a lot of times.
And you know what? It can happen to anybody. I was using alcohol. First of all, like I never, for the time I was doing it, like I would never ever drink to get drunk. So like nobody knew that I was using alcohol every day. I would drink to kind of feel a buzz and then kind of carry on the day, and I'd maintain that buzz all day. One thing about alcohol or drugs or anything else you're involved in, it'll help you out for a little while. It'll help you kind of, as you said, take that edge off and make you able to kind of continue your day. And what I was doing towards the end was that I'd be like, it was to a point where I ever wanted to leave my house. And then when I was at home, I was usually upstairs in my room. So what I would do if I had to go out to give a speech or had to go meet some people, well, I'd, have about 2 or 3 drinks to kind of give myself that kind of push out the door. After a while, that really not only starts affecting your physical health, but before that, it starts to affect your mental health.
Because it helps with it doesn't help with the depression. It masks the depression while the depression gets worse.
Well, and it's funny, you say that because I was speaking to a group of business owners. This is a few years ago. And this one gentleman said, well, we do debriefing usually every Friday. The guys will get together at the local pub and they'll kind of go over what happened during the week. So we do a debrief. And I said to him, I said, well, you do realize that alcohol's a depressant.
Yeah.
It is. It's not, alcohol is not, something that kind of gives you a boost like a vitamin does. It's actually, alcohol's a depressant. So you're actually not doing yourself any favors. You're just making your situation worse, as I was making my situation worse.
And I guess it's also important to mention that while this isn't like, quote, therapy, unquote, it is therapeutic even for people who just check in every now and again. It's not, the peer-to-peer network doesn't have to necessarily be a program so much as an outlet. Is that the right way to put it?
Exactly. I call it the first line of positive mental health care before it becomes a serious issue. It's the avenue, or it's the thing to kind of help you deal with what you're dealing with. And one thing about depression and that sort of thing, if you don't kind of look after it when you first discover it, it will just get worse. So what we do with our peer support meetings, we have a certified facilitator that runs these meetings. If we find somebody needs more care than what peer support can offer, because we're peer support, we're not therapists, we're not counselors, but we do have that ability to get you in touch with somebody, when needed. I can't tell you how many times people have contacted us during our meetings, and and I'm talking about our Zoom meetings now, but have contacted us during our meetings or sent us emails or phone calls saying, I've been dealing with this situation for way too long now, and I actually need some help. So our programs actually give people that ability to reach out and to get help.
And because sometimes, I don't want to say you don't know, but sometimes when you have a name for something, or when you can find a better way to describe it, you realize that you may be suffering from something that you didn't know. You thought that, no, sometimes I need an extra drink to fall asleep, and then you hear from other people their experiences, and you're like, oh no, this is something that other people have also done. And so there's the kind of the help of knowing that you're not alone, and also the help of knowing that the people who've kind of gone through this already are willing to give you some direction and some aid.
And to know that you're kind of not by yourself. I mean, I can look back to my diagnosis And it helped me personally so much knowing that, hey, I wasn't by myself on this. There was others kind of going through the same thing that I was going through, and being able to, to reach out with that person, or just knowing that someone has your back, when you're going through something, and we can, to people that are listening, to this, doesn't it feel amazing that, when you're going through a life challenge, that somebody is with you, whether it be a professional, whether it be a friend, family member, partner. It just feels so much better knowing that, people support you and, again, have your back.
All right, we're going to take a second to speak with Lucia Igani, our Director of Marketing, and she's going to tell us about an upcoming in-person event, the Funeral Service Business Plan. Lucia, tell us a little bit about who's coming and what the dates are and all that.
The dates are October 24th and 25th, and it's in Virginia Beach at the Delta Hotels by Marriott. Beautiful location right on the beach. It's a 2-day event. We have a panel of 9 expert speakers.
And we're offering a promo code. This is the first time we're doing this. I'm pretty excited about it. I feel like a podcasting hotshot. But we are offering a promo code for listeners only. It is the lowest price that you will be able to get for the show. And what is the price and what is the promo code?
That is correct. So right now we're running a super early bird rate of $347. But for our listeners, we're offering the promo code with another $50 savings, bringing the ticket price to $297. And the promo code for that is FSI Podcast.
That is FSI Podcast, like Funeral Service Insider Podcast. FSI Podcast. Put that in a checkout and you'll get the additional $50 off the already reduced early bird rate. And that's available till August 27th?
August 27th. And if you'd like to learn more information about this upcoming event, visit our website. Under the events section, you'll see all the information you need with the speaker information as well as the agenda. And you will also have a link there to register for the conference through Eventbrite.
And the link will be in the show notes. And can you tell me about some of the speakers?
We have Tyler Anderson. He's the Vice President of Business Development for Precoa. His session is titled Unlocking Pre-Need, How to Leverage Pre-Need to Increase Case Volume and Average Funeral Value.
Very cool. And then let me again follow up with the for $50 off. Don't forget to use the code FSI Podcast. And I guess that's all we have for this week. Thank you so much, Lucia.
Thanks, Tony.
We had a story about burnout in this month's issue of American Funeral Director, and it was a personal essay contributed by a funeral director, and she talked about like knowing about burnout and knowing that, and just she was going to be the one who didn't burn out, and. So she thought that as long as she knew that people burned out, she could kind of make sure that she kept it separate. And, of course, she wrote the story because she wasn't able to keep that separate. It seems like a regular problem. So how do you know whether you're just having a bad week or you're starting to burn out a little bit?
Well, one thing you do if you just unfortunately can't leave work at work, you're losing sleep, you're forgetting to kind of do stuff that's really important to you, whether it's gardening or anything else. Mm-hmm. And just the tiredness that you feel all the time. And yeah, just forgetting to do normal stuff that you would normally do, that you enjoy doing. Trouble sleeping is a sure sign of it because you're tired all the time.
Right. As a funeral director, if you're home, you've already put in a really full day.
Well, exactly. And this industry, we really need to, start looking after our people. I was speaking to somebody through Facebook, and it was one of these removal service sites, and the person was mentioning how they drove for 18 hours today.
Jeez.
And I said to the person, I said, you do realize I said, did you have any stops? Did you? Oh no, well, I stopped for lunch and stuff, but I had to get back to the funeral. I said, do you realize that's against the law, right? Like driving that long, like if you got into an accident, and God forbid, where somebody, let's say you hit, was killed or seriously injured, you're seriously at fault. I mean, professional drivers, long distance haulers don't even drive that much in a day. That's why there's
Right.
logbooks. You know, this industry needs to realize that what we've done in the past, it doesn't work now. You can't continue to do that and expect a good positive result.
I I want to actually throw a vague statistic at you, because you saying that makes me think of we have this compensation survey that we do every year at Kates-Boylston,
Mm-hmm.
and we send it out, and 90% of our respondents are independent funeral directors, and this is the 10th year we've done it. So now we have 10 years of data. And one piece of data that I was looking at it like just before our call, which is why I want to bring it up.
Sure.
One piece of data was that most independent funeral homes, 20% of independent funeral homes 10 years ago did 100 or fewer at-need calls a year. This year, that number is 8%.
Mm-hmm.
So the number of people in these small independent funeral homes, it's rare to do 100 or fewer calls, which means that people are burning a lot hotter than they were even a decade ago.
Oh yeah.
All of those numbers went up.
Oh, exactly.
And so trying to navigate that business, that path where you've got to do, 300 calls a year just to stay open, or 200 calls a year just to stay open, balancing that out with the kind of help that you need and the kind of, wages that you're willing to pay and all of those things, taking your own mental health into consideration when making those decisions is probably something worth doing.
Oh yes, totally. Yeah.
Part of realizing whether you're burned out is whether do you need more help, or is it just a busy quarter, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like, how do you know when you need more help versus when you're going through a busy period that will eventually relent?
Well, I think definitely, when you realize that you're there all the time, you definitely need more help, whether it's full-time help or part-time help. When you're missing, different things, the cleanliness of your building or anything like that, that you're continually there, all the time. I know now when I've kind of hit a wall, and I can't
Right.
do anymore, where I just say, you know what, I'm done. I have to go home. This will have to wait for tomorrow. Sometimes you do have to make that decision. Whether you need more staff, more full-time staff, more part-time staff, when you're there kind of all the time, that you kind of need help, or you're really starting to burn out. And your body has a way, and I'm not a doctor, but your body has a way of letting you go for a little while, and then all of a sudden your body will say, okay, that's enough for you.
Right.
And you end up having a heart issue or something like that, right?
And so if there's, I don't want to say an upside to your experience, but one of the things, a positive that came from your experience is you take that more seriously than you would have before. Like when you're like, okay, this will have to wait till tomorrow. Learning to say that must be incredibly difficult for a funeral director.
Oh yeah, it is, and it's so important. And I tell people this all the time. You only have one shot to be a good partner. You only have one shot to be a good parent. If your kid has a soccer game or football or dance recital or something like that, you damn well need to be there. Our world is changing a little bit for the positive, where where now kind of younger employees are saying, my job is important, but my family is much more important. That's one thing that this industry has kind of turned around and said, what? I support that fully.
And along those lines, that's a perfect segue into this decision to add a meeting for young funeral directors. Can you tell me how that came about, and how students can get involved if they want to get involved?
Yeah, definitely. Everything we've done has been a response to a need. We don't just kind of throw it against the wall and hoping it'll stick. We do things because people have reached out. I'm here in Canada, and I'm pretty sure it's the same thing in the States, but mental health issues and suicide rates in our colleges and universities are at an all-time high. And this is no different in funeral service education. You have young people, a lot of them, who, when I use the city of Toronto as an example, Humber College, you could be living in small town Ontario where you kind of know everybody, and then you kind of move to go to school, and you're probably in one of the biggest cities in North America, where it's like, 3.5 million people, and where nobody. Your schooling and the pressure is quite daunting. And, the number of students that kind of dropped out of programs or turned to substance abuse or turned to suicide attempts, unfortunately, is really, really high. So what we've done is once a month, and it actually starts next month, is our peer support meetings for students. So students entering whatever program, whether it's in Canada, the United States, or anywhere else, where students can come together. It's facilitated by two people, one of them being a kind of a first-year funeral director out of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, who's facilitating this group, where we have speakers come in and talk to the students. So this has been kind of a response to a need. We have accredited webinars that we offer. Again, a response to a need. Funeral directors need to have, of course, their educational credits. So we help out that way by making those available. Something else we've done to respond to a need is we have an EAP program in Canada, but in the US it's called Member Assistance Program, where we offer a 24-hour helpline. That's for anybody, whether you work in a cemetery, funeral home, transfer service, professional counseling, 24-hour helpline, 24-hour web wellness library, and of course our peer support meetings. And, we offer, counseling not only for the funeral director, but their partners, their families, their children. So everything we have has been a response to a need.
How has the response been, I guess, from the funeral directors that are still in school, from the next generation?
This is something that's interesting. The new generation now, they're used to talking about mental health issues because they've done it. Yeah. They've done it in school. They've done it for a majority, some of them, of their high school years, even their junior high years. They've talked about mental health issues. People in our age range have it. So the young people, younger students really appreciate this. They want this. Some of the older, let's say, funeral directors are starting to realize that this is a valuable asset to have.
Excellent. And that kind of puts us up against it. There's nothing else that I have on my list to ask you, but is there something that I should have asked you, or something that you wanted to say that I didn't give you the opportunity to say?
How do we fund ourselves?
How do you get funding?
We run by donations. We run by financial support from our industry, and not only industries. We reach out for grants. The support program we have and our helpline. To be honest, all this stuff costs money.
Right.
To have instant access to mental health care, all this stuff costs money. in order to do what we're supposed to do, or do what our mantra is, we do have to ask for financial assistance from individuals through membership, and membership to our group is $15 per month. It's $150 per year, and we do have sponsorship levels. Like our webinars we offer. Those teachers that are doing the webinar, they have to be paid. And we also have a podcast that we do, which is Stronger Together, and it's on all the podcast sites. You can go to, and we certainly invite you as a guest.
Oh, how exciting! I'll link down the show notes.
But to keep that running, yes, we do need sponsorship. Companies now have to start looking after their employees, and part of looking after your employees, so that you will have this employee for a long time if they know that they're cared for.
Very good. And then that is all I have for you. Thank you so much for joining me.
That is awesome.
Thanks for listening to Funeral Service Insider, the podcast, sponsored by Inertia Marketing and Design. If your funeral home, cemetery, or death care industry service is looking to get your brand into motion, Inertia Marketing and Design is your answer. Inertia handles all your marketing, online, social media, and public relations needs in one place. Discover an accelerated solution to make your brand stand out in the death care crowd. Find Inertia online at www.inertia.marketing or call death care marketing expert John Navickas at 888-552-IDEA extension 113. That's 888-552-4332 extension 113. Inertia Marketing and Design. Brands in motion, stay in motion. Funeral Service Insider, the podcast, is a Kates-Boylston production. It was written and edited by me, Tony Russo. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Please make sure you check out the show notes. There's all sorts of fun stuff in there. That is where you can find a link to and register for the Funeral Service Business Plan Conference, October 24th and 25th in Virginia Beach. That's in Virginia, the United States of America. If you have any feedback that you'd like to leave, please send me an email, and my email address is arusso@kbpublications.com. Again, click in the show notes and you'll find it. You can also leave me a voicemail. Just call 732-746-0201, and you can do that both. And you can do both if you'd like. You can record a message on your phone and email it to me at the address I mentioned. I'll play the ones that are appropriate, and we can continue to have this conversation offline. I always say subscribe where you're listening, and please do. We're available on Spotify, we're available on Apple Music, and we are available on Amazon. Wherever you get podcasts, wherever you're listening now, you can click and subscribe, so whenever a new show comes out, you know about it first. For this week's postmortem, I'm going to do something a little different and do some news reporting, because this is the first opportunity I have to talk to you about this. As many of you know, the FTC had a workshop where it questioned everybody about how to go forward with its policy on GPLs. And I'm going to have a series running this week that is probably starting Tuesday, September 12th. I'll have stories that break down the 5 hours worth of testimony and rebuttals between all of the interested parties. So far, I've just gotten started, and I have to give Paula Masters of the ICCFA credit for one of the more interesting arguments that I've heard so far. So if for some reason you're not familiar, here's the entire backstory. The FTC is considering altering the funeral room to make it so that funeral homes have to have their prices listed on their website. There are reasons to do this and reasons not to do this, and that's what the whole hearing is about. But Paul's one argument that really should if not ring a bell with the FTC, at least send a chill down your spine if you are a funeral director, has to do with people following the rules and the downside of this proposal, which we just saw, according to him. And he's right. And it's funny because it didn't occur to me until he said it. In April of this year, the FTC fined Joseph Damiano $275,000 for setting up a bunch of websites that offer cremation, having the lowest price listed, one-click cremation done and over with, and then sometimes not cremating the body, sometimes not returning the remains. All sorts of shenanigans. He's lost his license and things are just getting worse and worse. But he had 3 states. And as Paul pointed out, all he had to do was buy the SEO. All he had to do was invest in being the top website, and people clicked on it. And then he was able to take advantage of all these people who just wanted to see what the price was and get the job done. Now, many of them have said they wish they would have done a better job shopping. And I think the larger takeaway, I think funeral homes would do well to have their prices listed. I don't know whether it needs to be absolutely mandatory. I do know that whether or not they make it mandatory, I think the FTC needs to really make sure they're doing an even better job on enforcement and following through with these complaints. I mean, this guy did a lot of damage, and we covered it at the time in FSI. It's in our back pages. You can look it up, and I'll link to the court case in the show notes. But anyway, I'm going to be writing about that all of this week. You're listening to this on September 11th. By September 12th, 13th, and 14th, I should have a couple stories posted about this FTC workshop. And if for some reason you miss it or you don't have the time, you of course will get it in your Funeral Service Insider email. So just keep an eye out for that. And other than that, I believe we're done for this episode. So thanks for listening. This has been Funeral Service Insider, the podcast.